Hi everybody, once again this is Zeri, Persian pen name on AO3. I'm here for week 31 of my transition. I just had my third shot delivered by my darling spouse, who is just off screen. Let's see, what's been going on this week? It's Tour de Fleece! I have been spinning a lot. I'm not fast. Well, I spin very thin, which takes a lot of time. So that blue-green stuff that I had gotten to, that I had what's the word? Carted together. I had 9 bats of that. I have spun 3 of them so far. Today I'm gonna go and at least recard three more. The other 6 still need recarding. They need that second pass to really come together before I can get them on the wheel. Yeah, but I've been doing like a bat in 2 or 3 days, which is amazing for me. So I'm hoping that I'll actually finish the whole project. Right now, since I've got the 3 bobbins full, my little gremlin brain really wants to start plying already, but I'm making myself wait and be good so far. Let's see what else has been going on. My face is very broken out. It doesn't feel like it was this bad first puberty, but fuck, man, that was like 25 years ago? Who fucking remembers? Anyway, what else has been going on this week? I can't think of anything.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was July 4th, but who gives a shit? I was working, as per usual. Many hotel dogs were very angry about it. That's all I got.
Oh, poor dogs.
Yeah. Anyway, for today, I will be reading an original work by Moonlighten, titled His Honest Thought. It was for Shipoween 2020. The relationship is very attractive male knight / gruff male armorer forging his new armor. It seems cute, you know. We'll give it a go. So, anyway, it's for Devil Chicken, and again, the title is His Honest Thought. It's not unusual for William to have an audience while he labors in his workshop. Most often it comprises the mage, Beatrice Rolfe, who claims to find the repetitive clang of hammer striking iron soothing, unlike most, and thus a beneficial accompaniment to deep cogitation. But occasionally small groups of children gather at his always open door, drawn in by the spectacle of the showering sparks he raises at his anvil. Pardon. Pardon again. Goodness. Or else the heat of his forge when the weather turns sour. Today he has attracted the attention of a young man who is a stranger to him. Bardenbrook is a large town, and William can't claim to know all of its inhabitants by sight, but he's certain he would have noticed the man if their paths had ever happened to cross, even glancingly, in one of the nearby inns, or at market, or even at opposite ends of a crowded street. William's head would have been turned regardless, because the man is a most arresting sight. He's tall and trim, the close cling of his dark hose accentuating the long, lean lines of his legs, just as the flattering cut of his deep red doublet emphasizes the incongruously broad span of his well-built chest and shoulders. His hair shines like polished cherry wood where it catches the ruddy light cast out by the forge, and his eyes, lightly shadowed by the fan of his thick, dark lashes, hold that same rich hue. His lips, generously full, are curled up a little at one corner, as though he's taking pleasure in some private joke. He's so finely and fashionably turned out that William suspects he's not a local man at all, but a traveler en route to a destination of far more consequence than Bardenbrook, who is fetched up here due to some manner of misfortune. More than likely a damaged carriage wheel, As William can turn his head to a wheelwright's trade in a pinch, his name would be the first to come to the minds of his fellow townspeople in such circumstances. He plunges the knife he's been shaping into the bucket of oil at his side to quench the blade, then asks the man, "Can I help you, sir?" The man's quirked half-smile unfurls into a wide grin. "I do hope so," he says, striding forward energetically. "Pleased to make your acquaintance, Master Smith. My name is Benedict." The hand he proffers for William to shake is slender, uncalloused, and unadorned save for a gold signet ring worn on his index finger, engraved with a barbed, 5-petaled rose. A garland of that same flower is embroidered in crimson thread around the cuffs of his billowy white shirt-sleeves. William might never have seen him before this day, but he has heard tell of him, of his ring, and of his favored manner of dress. He is Sir Benedict Desroyers, the Rose Knight, member of the king's inner circle of trusted courtiers, one of the most accomplished swordsmen under his command, and nephew and heir of the Earl of Bardenbrook, whose estate lies several miles to the north of the town. The Earl has been gravely ill of late, not expected to see out the year's end, and rumors have been circulating for weeks that Sir Benedict had come to take care of him in his final days. William had been inclined to dismiss them previously, as no one he spoke to had seen hide nor hair of the man about the place, and it's well known that relations between uncle and nephew have been severely strained for many years. But here stands the truth in the flesh, smile fraying around the edges, and hands still expectantly outstretched. Too real to be dismissed, though William's dilatoriness in answer his greeting may have led Sir Benedict to think otherwise. William's own hands are thickly calloused, peppered with small burns and the scars of old ones long healed, and coated with a layer of grease and soot so thick and deeply ingrained that they are not appreciably any of the cleaner after he's wiped them, quite vigorously, against the bib of his leather apron. He does not offer one of them to Sir Benedict in turn, but instead bobs his head in a small bow and says, "William the Farrier, sir." "The town armourer, I've been told, and yet here I find you, busily engaged in the production of—" Sir Benedict steps aside to peer into the depths of William's quenching bucket. "Tableware." "General smithing's my bread and butter, sir," William says. "There aren't many people hereabouts in need of armor, save for the town guard and your uncle's knights." Sir Benedict flinches as though startled upon mention of his uncle, his eyes rounding wide, but when he next speaks his voice is smooth and measured, no trace of the evident surprise lingering in his even tone. "And it was one of my uncle's knights who sent me to you," he says. "Sir Geoffrey showed me the armor you lately made for him, and when I admired its craftsmanship, he gave me your name. I'm to attend a tourney at the season's end in honor of the Crown Prince's forthcoming nuptials, and I would like to commission a new suit of plate from you for the occasion. I'm prepared to pay handsomely for it. Whatever price you normally ask, I'll double it." As the season's end is only 2 months hence, William wouldn't have accepted anything less. Under such constraints, he will not have time to spare to take on his usual smithing jobs to supplement his income, and envisages many long days bleeding into late nights spent toiling at his forge in order to complete the task to his own satisfaction. Still, he does not quail at the prospect. He has little else to fill his hours with but work nowadays, and any opportunity to practice his true craft is always a welcome one. "Then I accept," he says. "Follow me, and I'll get you measured up, sir." William leads Sir Benedict to a small room at the back of his workshop, which is outfitted with a large lead-glass mirror, the table that serves him as a shop counter, and very little else save for the heavy curtains hung at the sole window. These he draws discreetly closed. "If you'd like to take off your doublet, I'll fetch you a gambeson to wear," William says before retreating to his storeroom to retrieve his 13-knot rope and a padded jacket that looks as though it might approximate Sir Benedict's size. When he returns, Sir Benedict is stripped down to his shirt-sleeves and hose, and clearly suffering for it. He has both arms wrapped tight around his middle, is shivering fit to snap a bone, and his fair skin has taken on a distinct bluish tinge. William hadn't been aware that there was a chill in the room, but then, he's never been troubled by a lack of hearth here. He always runs hot, as though the fire of his forge has sunk so deep into his body after his many years of working at one, that it keeps him warm from within. Sir Benedict accepts the gambeson easily enough, but the eye he casts over the knotted rope is a wary one. "Are you going to measure me yourself?" he asks. "I am." "Oh." Sir Benedict's fine eyebrows arc high. "Don't you have an apprentice to do that sort of thing?" "I used to." Walter had been 22 when William took him on, much too old to start an apprenticeship in the normal course of things, but he seemed so keen to learn, and Thruston had recommended him so fervently and with such passion that William hadn't had the heart to turn him away at the end. He left almost a year back, and he hadn't left alone. "You haven't felt the need to replace him?" Many times, most times, William could have done with an extra pair of hands around the place to lighten his load, but he'd also enjoyed being able to work at his own pace, and have the peace and quiet to be alone with his thoughts and enjoy his own company. Beatrice insists that what he's really been doing is wallowing in his solitude. She might well be right, but William isn't quite ready to give it up yet, nonetheless. The blacksmith and his apprentice are always willing to help out if needs be," he says. "I'll get your armor made in time, come what may." I don't doubt it," Sir Benedict says with a ready smile, though it's quick to fade away once he's donned the gambeson and William asks him to stand with his arms outstretched from his sides so he can begin taking his measurements. He holds himself very stiffly then, like a man bracing himself for a heavy blow, and when William leans in close to wrap the knotted rope around his chest, Sir Benedict's breathing grows shallow and his pulse jumps at the base of his throat. Glancing up at his face, William sees only the underside of his chin, because Sir Benedict has turned his eyes heavenwards as though to avoid looking at him. He is perhaps uncomfortable with having a near stranger standing so intimately close to him, hand skimming across his body as William measures out the circumference of his chest, his neck, his thigh. William tries to be quick about it and keeps his own eyes averted, counting out the knots by touch alone. When William is finished, Sir Benedict casts the gambeson aside with alacrity and grabs up his doublet, which he holds clasped close to his breast. "Do you need anything more from me?" he asks in a thready voice. "Not right now, sir," William says. "I'll send word to your uncle's estate when you need to come in for another fitting. Should be about a fortnight's time, I reckon." "Thank you, Master Smith," Sir Benedict says, stumbling into a clumsy bow. "Till we meet again." He's still in the process of putting on his doublet as he hurries out the door. Just 2 days pass before William looks up from his anvil and sees Sir Benedict lounging in his open doorway once more. "I've barely made a start on your armor, sir," William says. "I have a number of commissions to fulfill first." "Oh, I haven't come about the armor," Sir Benedict says. "I was hoping I might watch you at your work again. I found it fascinating before, extremely educational. I'm not a practical man, Master Smith. Not very good with my hands, so to speak." "Except when you've a sword or a lance in them, by all accounts." Sir Benedict snorts laughter. "True enough, but it's a different story entirely, when instead I'm wielding a paintbrush or a whittling knife." He takes a diffident step forward, over the door's threshold and into the workshop. "So, would you mind if I stayed?" William shrugs. "You wouldn't be the first, sir." He can't understand the attraction of doing so himself, though he loves his work. He imagines it probably looks dully repetitive from the outside, and therefore of scant value as entertainment. The Earl's estate must be sorely lacking in diversions, for Sir Benedict to have sought him out again so soon. "As long as you can keep as quiet as you did the other day, then no, I don't mind if you stay." "I shall take my cues from the proverbial mouse," Sir Benedict promises, and with that he seats himself upon the little wooden stool set just to the left of the doorway, where Thurston used to sit of an evening so he could make use of the last light of day as he wove his nets. Sir Benedict may be a little taller and have significantly less gray hair at his temples, but, squinting at him through the clouds of smoke and steam billowing about the workshop, William could almost imagine that Thurston had returned and taken up the place which had used to belong to him. Though the impression is a disconcerting one, it's not one that troubles William overlong, as Sir Benedict is good to his word and stays so silent and so still that William could almost forget he was there at all, and soon loses himself to the familiar rhythms of his work once more. Sir Benedict stayed close on to an hour that day, long enough, William supposes, to have drunk his fill of the armourer's trade. But 4 days later he returns in the same quiet way, and makes the same quiet request. William can't think of a decent reason to deny him. He's followed only moments later by Beatrice, who is carrying a thick, dog-eared book which William recognizes at a glance, as it has accompanied her sporadic visits for the past month or more. A tome of ancient magical lore that, she has complained to William nearly every one of those visits, is so dense and impenetrably written that she can barely get through a page of it before being overcome by the desire to down a stiff drink and then cast the book into the nearest privy. Sir Benedict springs to his feet and offers her first an extravagant bow, and thereafter his full name and title. If Beatrice is determined, blah 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 blah. If Beatrice is surprised to discover William's companion is a knight and nephew to the Earl, she gives no outward indication of it. Her expression does not falter from its habitual resting frown. "Beatrice Rolfe," she says, briskly shaking Sir Benedict's hand. "Mage and neighbourhood curmudgeon, according to some. If you're looking for conversation, Sir Knight, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you. I've come here to read. The clamour helps me concentrate." With that she takes her usual seat upon the old packing crate she's claimed as her own, opens her book, and bends her head over it industriously. Sir Benedict looks to William, his eyes filled with laughter and his furrowed brows bespeaking a silent question. William can only shrug an answer to it, as unable to provide an explanation for Beatrice's behaviour as Sir Benedict is to understand it. The three of them carry on in mutual silence thereafter, until the bells of the nearby chapel clock tower begin pealing to announce midday, whereupon Sir Benedict once again takes his leave. Beatrice had clearly been far more intrigued by him than she'd cared to reveal in his presence, for the moment Sir Benedict has safely moved out of earshot, she asks William, quite bluntly, "What on earth was he doing here?" "He commissioned a suit of plate from me," William says. "Apparently he's interested in the forging of it. So he comes here to sit, and say nothing, and do nothing, but watch you work for a while." "He does." "How peculiar." Beatrice wrinkles her nose. "Well, nobles often do get seized by strange whims and fancies, but they tend to tire of them in short order too. No doubt he'll get bored of it all soon enough." Beatrice worked for the Earl for many years before she saved up enough coin to buy her own small workshop, and thus knows more about the habits and foibles of nobles than William ever will. No doubt she's right, and no doubt he will, William agrees. Contrary to Beatrice's speculation, Sir Benedict returns to the workshop 2 days later, and 2 days after that, and 2 days after that, adding a novel beat to the steady, familiar rhythm of William's work and life. Sorry, my sinuses are draining. And by no means an unwelcome one, even though he becomes ever more garrulous with each subsequent visit, full of questions about each and every aspect of armor-making, what techniques William uses and why. William rarely has enough breath or concentration to spare to give him more than a curt word or two in reply, but Sir Benedict takes no offence at his brusqueness, and when William has no breath at all, he busies himself by performing small tasks to make William's work easier, fetching fresh buckets of water, feeding the forge, and even sweeping the workshop floor, such as Walter would have done if he were still here in William's employ. He also lingers a little longer with each subsequent visit, long enough that, by the end of the month, he stays one day to take his luncheon with William. Sir Benedict buys them pork pies from the butcher, so fresh that they're still warm from the oven, and a jug of ale to share from the inn. They sit side by side upon the small stone bench in the courtyard outside the workshop, crammed so close together that they can neither one of them raise an arm or shift position without jostling the other. Even though William is all covered over with sweat and charcoal dust, Sir Benedict doesn't seem to mind, and he doesn't try to move away. Whilst they eat, Sir Benedict regales William with stories of his fellow knights and distant battles fought in service of their king. William knows very little about such things, and has nothing to say for himself in consequence, so he just enjoys the opportunity to indulge in some watching of his own for a spell, because Sir Benedict shines even more brightly out here in the sunlight than he does in the glow of the forge. Although Sir Benedict's animation increases with each passing week, his satisfaction with the armor William has been forging him seems to decrease in equal portion. Looking at it now, set out on its stand and lacking all but a last buffing polish and a few finishing touches, he makes no attempt to disguise his frown as he normally does, and even appends a despondent sigh. "Is something wrong?" William asks him yet again, though he expects no other answer than the now customary vague yet encouraging platitudes. "No, nothing's wrong," Sir Benedict says. "The armor's beautiful, just as I knew it would be, but there's something lacking in it." "Lacking?" William says, frowning himself now. He can't think of a single thing he's overlooked, having followed Sir Benedict's directions in every particular. "Through no fault of your own," Sir Benedict hastens to add. "I'm afraid that what I wanted wasn't clear in my own mind at the start, and now that it is, it's perhaps too late to do anything about it. Sadly, the time's fast approaching when I'll have to hang up my sword and turn my attentions to estate management. This coming tourney is like to be my last, and I want to stand out, to make a lasting impression, so I'll be remembered even if I never do perform for an audience again." He opens the leather satchel he had brought with him and extracts a slim book. "I read something in here that I thought would be suitable, and He pauses, in the act of handing the book to William, his cheeks pinking, but William snatches it from him before he can start stammering out the apologies that are surely gathering on his lips. "I can read, sir," William assures him. Although his father is illiterate, he's a great believer in the power of books, and insisted William attend the local petty school for years before he ever began his apprenticeship. "A man's always richer if he learns his numbers and letters," he's fond of saying, "even if the knowing of them never makes him any more coin. And I see you've already marked the right page." William turns it to read an unnecessarily protracted and grandiloquent passage describing a knight, purported to be a real historical figure, who wore armor enchanted to shimmer with all the colors of the rainbow. William has never heard of such a thing, much less seen it. He's made enchanted armor before, but the magic woven through the metal then was meant to protect the wearer, not dazzle the senses. But it makes no odds either way, because laying any sort of enchantment on Sir Benedict's armor is impossible now. "Can't be done," William says, as gently as is able, knowing that he's certain to disappoint. "Iron's no friend to magic, and it won't settle in steel. Though," he adds, after thinking on it some more, "I could always make an engraving on the breastplate and inlay it with copper or some other metal that will hold magic. Only the inlaid part would shine then, but I'll do it if that'll suit." Sir Benedict beams at him. "I think that would be perfect. Even better than what I had in mind, in fact. A rose, I think, would be most fitting for the engraving." William smiles back. "Of course. And Beatrice can do the enchanting, though, just to warn you, she charges a pretty penny for her services." "Money is, as ever, no object," Sir Benedict says. "I'll pay whatever she asks." Before he leaves again, Sir Benedict removes his signet ring and passes it to William, calling it a guide for the engraving. It's solid gold, and likely worth more than William earns in a year, if not two. "I can't take this," he protests, trying to press the ring back into Sir Benedict's hand, but he stubbornly refuses to have it back. "I trust you to take care of it," he says, "and to return it to me when it's due." Beatrice whistles appreciatively through her teeth when she sees the breastplate, newly emblazoned with Sir Benedict's heraldic rose, inlaid with copper. "Pretty armor," she says, looking sidelong at William. "Pretty man, too. He's taken quite the fancy to you." William feels his face burn as hot as his forge. I'm sure not." "And I'm sure so," Beatrice insists. "I see a lot of things you don't when you're hammering away at metal and not paying him any notice. He watches you like you're the only thing in the world worth seeing." "He's much too fine to be interested in the likes of me," William says, shaking his head firmly. "I don't see why that would have to be true," Beatrice says. "From certain angles, and in the right light, you're a handsome man. And you're definitely what the more fanciful of writers like to call well-thewed. That has a certain appeal to some, and I imagine it's safe to say Sir Benedict can be counted among that number." "But he's a knight, and—" "Yes, and heir to the Earl." Beatrice waves William's words aside with an irritable flap of her hands. "Look, I'm not saying he's poised ready to ask your hand in marriage, but I do think he wants to enjoy your company more intimately." Her voice softened slightly. "Thurston's been gone a year now, and you've barely cracked a smile since then. I think it would do to try happiness on for size again, Will. You might find that you like the fit." In the brilliant light cast out by his new armor, donned in full for the first time, Sir Benedict looks so radiant, so magnificent, that William is transfixed by him. Sir Benedict himself seems mesmerized by his own reflection. "You've outdone yourself, William. It's exquisite," he breathes. "Too exquisite to wear, I think. I wouldn't want it to get damaged. It's a work of art." "No, it isn't," William says, surprising himself with his daring in contradicting a noble so baldly. "It isn't a painting or a tapestry or something to be hung on a wall and admired at a distance. The beauty of it all is in the wearing and doing the job it was made to do, protecting you." He ends far less certain than he began, and falls into a flustered silence, fearing that he might have dealt Sir Benedict a grievous insult. But Sir Benedict looks thoughtful rather than angry. "Then I shall wear it," he says at length, tearing his gaze away from the mirror to settle it upon William. "I wouldn't want to insult your hard work." All that remains then is to help Sir Benedict out of his armor, pack it away, and settle payment. Sir Benedict hands William a bulging purse containing far more coins than even the generous amount they'd agreed upon after William completed his inlay work, and remains unmoved by William's argument that it's too much, and he should take back the excess. There's no reason to keep him any longer after that, and he'll have no excuse now to continue his visits to the workshop. William will probably not see him again until after he's inherited his uncle's titles and needs some day to commission armor for one of his own knights. He wishes he could ask him to stay, just to pass the time together, and maybe even more, but Beatrice's assurances that Sir Benedict's interest in that quarter were not sufficient to give him the courage to press forward. She's been wrong about the ways of nobles once, and may well be wrong again. William could be a whim and passing fancy, nothing more. He doesn't want to shame himself by presuming any different. He walks with Sir Benedict back to the workshop of the door, and on the threshold Sir Benedict hesitates, silent for a moment, and scraping the heel of his boot back and forth against the stone floor. "I've been thinking," he says eventually, gaze fixed unwaveringly at his feet, "that I will likely need a sword even after I give up being a knight. If the worst happens, I'll still be expected to fight in our king's defense after all. The sword I have is a battered old thing, though, hardly fit for an earl. Can you make swords, William?" "I can," William says, hope swelling warm in his chest. A slow smile spreads across Sir Benedict's lips. "Then, when I return from my tourney, we'll have to meet again to discuss my commissioning one." On the evening before Sir Benedict is due to ride out to the capital for his tourney, he arrives at the workshop just as William is closing it up for the day. He has a bottle of wine in hand, which he raises high when William turns around after bolting the door and catches his eye. "I thought we could drink a toast," he says, "to my inevitable victory in the tourney." You're certain that you'll win? William asks. Sir Benedict laughs. With your marvelous armor to protect me, how could I lose? William scrounges up two dusty clay cups from his storeroom. Sir Benedict pours a generous measure from his bottle into each, and they both take a seat on the bench in the courtyard to drink it, shoulders brushing together once more. Sir Benedict talks with great enthusiasm about the capital and tournaments past, and, as he did the last time they were in this selfsame spot in the selfsame way, William, having little else to bring to the conversation, just lends him an interested ear and enjoys the smooth, lilting cadences of his voice and the heat of his body blending with his own. And he drinks. The wine is sour and a little vinegary, but it's strong, far stronger than the ale he's accustomed to drinking. It pools warmly in his belly and flows hot through his veins, dulling to the mind but invigorating to the spirit. With each cup William drinks, his courage grows, and when the hour grows late and Benedict rises to take his leave, he feels confident and assured enough to lay a hand against his arm and ask him to wait, and tell him, I have something for you. From the purse hung at his belt, he takes out the gift he's carried these past 2 weeks, waiting on the right moment that never seemed to arise, and presents it to Sir Benedict. It's just a token, a small disc of steel inlaid with a tiny rose of copper, made from the scraps left over from the forging of Sir Benedict's armor. Beatrice had enchanted it as well, but only to spark in silver and gold, and not in every color there is. Sir Benedict retrieves it from him with careful hands, as though it's a precious thing. Is this a favor? He asks, his voice hushed almost to a whisper. William's breath stands still in his chest. His heart races on. He had meant the token as nothing more than a good luck charm, and he almost says as much, but a single glance at Sir Benedict's face stops him dead in his tracks. He looks shocked, certainly. There's also a sort of quiet delight infusing his expression, which gives William enough hope that emboldens him to say, If you'd like it to be. I would. The words are ardently spoken. I'll fight in your name in the tourney, my William, and I'll dedicate my victory to you, too. He presses a brief, glancing kiss to the center of the token, and then reaches out to pull William into an embrace so tight and so close that the thundering beat of his heart feels to be pounding against William's own ribs. The kiss that Sir Benedict now presses to William's lips is decidedly less chaste. The end. So, I really like that one. I always like the shout-out of William, Benedict, and Beatrice. That's a great trio of names. This one was really cute. Who doesn't like a nice little gay knight in his gay armor? It's cute. So that's my story this week. I hope you all like it. Go read more by the author. I know I'm gonna. And yeah, that's really all I've got. Now I'm gonna go card a bunch more wool and silk and get some more spinning done. So I'll see you guys next week. Have fun, be good, stay safe, make good trouble, and I'll see you then.